Alcatraz Island is one of the most famous prisons in the world, located in the middle of San Francisco Bay in the United States. It was known as a place where the most dangerous criminals were sent, and many people believed that no one could ever escape from it. The cold water, strong currents, and tight security made it nearly impossible to get away. But in June 1962, 3 prisoners, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, did something unbelievable. They created a clever plan and disappeared from their cells in the middle of the night. Alcatraz Island is a small rocky island located in the middle of San Francisco Bay, about 1.25 miles 2 kilometers from the shore. It is famous for being home to one of the most well-known and feared prisons in the United States. The US Army built a fort on Alcatraz in the 1850s to guard the bay from enemies. Soon the Army started using Alcatraz as a place to hold military prisoners. That brings us to the escape that shocked the world. 3 prisoners, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin, did the unthinkable. They disappeared from their cells and vanished into the night. Frank Lee Morris was born on September 1, 1926, in Washington, D.C. He had a hard life from the very beginning. By the time he was a teenager, he was already in trouble with the law. John and Clarence Anglin, they arrived on the island in 1961, just months after Frank Morris. The 4th man, Alan West. Life in Alcatraz was very controlled, but inmates still found ways to talk and share ideas. Frank Morris, John Anglin, Clarence Anglin, and Alan West had cells close to each other. They met during work shifts and meals. Over time, they grew to trust each other. Before doing anything, Frank Morris and the others had to understand exactly how the prison worked. They needed to know when the guards checked the cells, how often head counts were done, and where the weak spots in the prison were. Every day, they paid close attention to their surroundings. They listened carefully and looked at how the prison operated. They realized the vents in their cells led to a service corridor. If they could get into that corridor without being seen, they would be one step closer to freedom. Their cells were located on the top level of the prison's B block. The guards didn't check that area as often, especially during the night. One of the biggest challenges was getting out of their cells. Each man had a small vent at the back of his cell. These vents were covered by metal grills and surrounded by concrete. The only way out was to make the hole large enough for a man to squeeze through. They used spoons from the cafeteria, parts of a vacuum cleaner, and even a broken drill made from a stolen motor. They sharpened their tools using anything they could find: pieces of metal, sandpaper, or even the prison's floor. Every night after lights out, they would quietly chip away at the concrete around the vent. They hid the noise by playing music or banging pipes during work hours. During the day, they covered the holes with cardboard so guards wouldn't notice. Escaping the prison was only part of the plan. They also had to survive the cold waters of San Francisco Bay. The team gathered over 50 prison-issued raincoats. These rubber raincoats were waterproof and perfect for building a makeshift raft. One of the cleverest parts of the plan was the creation of fake heads. The prisoners knew that the guards did regular checks during the night. If a guard saw an empty bed, the alarm would go off, and the escape would be stopped immediately. So the escapees made dummy heads to trick the guards. They used a mixture of soap, toilet paper, and cement dust to create the shape of a human head. At night, each man placed the dummy head on his pillow, covered it with a blanket, and arranged it to look like he was sleeping. When the guards walked by and looked through the bars, they saw what they thought was a prisoner asleep in bed. The secret exit route. Behind the holes in the walls was a hidden service corridor that ran behind their cells, and it wasn't guarded. Once the men got through the holes, they could climb up to the ceiling area of the building. From there, they had to reach the roof. They used a series of pipes to climb up. This location was not heavily guarded. It gave them just enough space and time to launch their homemade raft into the bay. The date was set, June 11, 1962. That night, Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin crawled through the holes in their walls, entered the service corridor, climbed to the roof, and began their daring escape. But Alan West wasn't able to join them. His vent hole was too small. He hadn't finished digging it. By the time he got it open, the others were gone. West had to stay behind, and later he told the FBI everything about the escape plan.